about responding to a disaster.
We hope that Congress passes this as soon as possible because there's a lot of urgent need.
I'm David Kamen.
I'm Bharat Ramamurthy.
We're Deputy Directors at the National Economic Council. We're in the midst of a national crisis. The COVID crisis has ushered in an economic crisis. And the longer we wait to respond to it, the more Americans are going to suffer and the longer our economy will take to recover.
If you look at where we are now compared to where we were before the pandemic began, we're about 10 million jobs short.
Here is an independent study by the Brookings Institution.
It shows GDP, which is essentially the size of the economy. This bold line here at the bottom represents what has actually happened to the economy. This dashed line at the top here, that was the projection of what was going to happen if there wasn't a pandemic. Where the economy is now is way short of that projection. This dotted line is what would happen if we did nothing. We put together a plan to make sure that we defeat COVID as quickly as possible.
The American Rescue Plan is designed to address the crisis we face now. If we pass the American Rescue Plan, it shows the economy recovering to its levels pre-pandemic by the end of the year.
We can't have an economic recovery unless we get the pandemic under control.
The American Rescue Plan has a bold set of steps.
Getting shots in people's arms, getting our schools reopened quickly and safely, and delivering relief to people who need it so that we can get through this pandemic, we can get people vaccinated, and then we're going to be ready to rebuild quickly coming out of the other side. Recovery is not going to happen overnight. We need to build a bridge for families to get through the pandemic.
Give families the bridge they need. Until we have done that, the economic crisis is not going to go away.
There's nothing worse for the American economy than American families not having the money to support themselves throughout the pandemic.
So what does that mean? It means making sure we finish the job on providing $2,000 to each American. We need to address that.
There are about 7 million people who are behind on their rent, and they're at risk of eviction from their landlord.
That's why the president has called for a continuation of the eviction moratorium. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're addressing the back rent that is building up, which is why we are pairing it with rent relief.
If you're one of the folks who've lost their job through no fault of your own, the American Rescue Plan extends unemployment insurance well into the summer and into the fall at $400 a week. Right now in America, there's about 10 million children who are living in poverty. One of the most important features of the American Rescue Plan is an expansion of what's called the child tax credit, an extra payment that goes to families with kids under the age of 18 with an additional benefit for kids under the age of 6. Passing this American Rescue Plan would cut child poverty in the United States in half.
The cost of inaction means pain for millions of American families and tremendous cost to the U.S. economy going forward.
If we don't pass this, it means that up to 7 million people may get kicked out of their homes in the middle of a pandemic.
It means that this year, 4 million jobs would be lost.
5 million additional children living in poverty this year.
11 million Americans would lose unemployment insurance and not be able to put food on their table.
It means real pain and suffering throughout the economy for millions of American families.
Over the last year, we've too often been fighting this crisis from behind. It's time to finally get COVID under control and give families the bridge they need through the crisis. The costs of inaction far outweigh the costs of action.